Welcome everybody, session 3 of the winter webinar series. It's going very quick and it's making it that winter is literally evaporating in front of our eyes. But today we're talking about growing cherries in a changing environment. My name's Jess Fernley. I work for New South Wales Department of Primary Industries and Regional Development and lead the extension and communication project along with Geeta, our lovely tech behind the screen this afternoon. I'd first of all like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on which we're all meeting today. I'm coming in from Wiradjuri Nation, and I'd like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. So, growing cherries in a changing environment. Now, this encompasses a wide range of different topics. Unfortunately, today we're only going to be able to touch on 2, but there's 2 new projects that have started within the cherry industry, which I thought would be really good to hear about, all focused on growing cherries in modified environments. So I've got 2 presenters today who are joining me. We've got Ollie Overman, who is from the University of Tasmania, and Dr. Summer Song, who is from my colleague from New South Wales Department of Primary Industries and Regional Development. And they're going to be talking about the Optimising Protected Cherry Project, which started last year around this time. And then I'm going to be talking about a new project that has just started with Charles Sturt University and New South Wales DPIRD and our counterparts at UTAS. And that's all about long-term drought resilience for cherry orchards. So, like I mentioned, we're up to episode 3 of our winter webinar series. If you're interested in the previous webinars, which we did on improving pollination and maximising fruit quality, please jump onto the YouTube channel and watch the recording there. We will be recording today's session, so if you're interested and want to go back and listen to any of the parts, you'll find it on the YouTube session there as well. And then we have one left. 2 weeks on Wednesday, not Thursday. So we've got Wednesday, the 5th of August, and that's all about training and canopy systems. So please make sure you jump on live. It makes it a lot easier for us if we've got people that we're talking to, which is great. And that one's just the QR code if you'd like to register for that 5th of August session. So that's enough of me. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to pass on to Dr. Summer Song, who is a project officer with New South Wales DPI. Summer, did you want to share your screen?
Yeah, we did. Thank you, Jess. Yeah, can you see that well, Jess?
Looks great, Summer.
Thank you. Right, I'll start then. So yeah, Samsung work for New South Wales DPI, and today I will provide an overview of our project about protected cherry production and share some early findings with our project partner, Ollie from TR. Yeah, so just a quick overview. This is a 3-year project funded by Industry Levy. A little bit background is that most of us probably have seen rain cracking on cherries, like this photo shows, which is really heartbreaking when it happens. To protect cherries from damage like this, many growers started to consider adopting rain covers, but there has been limited information available to help them make an informed adoption decision. So this project was initiated with 2 main objectives. One was to understand various cover systems and their lifespan, and 2, to understand best management under covers, so we can produce commercial use of large firm fruits. And with the 2 objectives in mind, we have designed 5 key project elements, focusing on the needs of 2 grower groups. Group 1 is those who are looking to adopt covers. Group 2 is those who have adopted covers. So in the element 1 is an investment calculator, which will help growers calculate return on investment of protective covers. Number 2 is case studies involving orchard trials to understand the cover effects on orchard microclimate conditions and fruit quality. Number 3 is case studies as well involving trials to look at management practices under covers. Number 4 is interviews, so we can collect growers' experiences with adopting and managing covers. And the last one is extension activities. We will organize workshops and field works and webinars. We'll also develop fact sheets and articles to distribute in the industry. Next is this project is industry focused, so to obtain industry inputs and deliver relevant outputs, we started with workshops to collect ideas from growers and agronomists. In the workshops, we asked questions like, what would you like to know when making decisions about protective covers, and what management practices would you like to try to address the problems you have experienced with managing crops under covers? The information collected from the workshops really helped us shape the project and establish case studies in different regions and states. Next, we'll share some early findings from case studies about cover effects. So since the project start in last July, we have established 5 trials about different cover systems in commercial cherry orchards in New South Wales, Victoria, and Tasmania. As you see in the photos, there are hail netting and rain covers, as well as netting combined with rain covers. So each case is very unique in its setting. At each site, there are areas with covers and areas without covers. The hail netting is permanent in ground, and the rain covers are normally opened early in the season and rolled back after harvest to minimize UV degradation and other damage. We installed sensors within the canopy to measure parameters like temperature, humidity, and wind speed. So the photo you see here, the orange pole, that's what that's a setup in Victoria site, and the other one is a set of sensors in Tasmania site, and it's also measuring radiation in the canopy. So when at commercial harvest, we pick cherry samples and also assess them in the lab. These trials compare orchard blocks with and without covers in terms of these climate parameters we measure, and some trials might measure more variables than others depending on the local setup and resources available. We get to more details and some findings here. So it started with the hail netting in New South Wales. The top table summarized key microclimate variables, including daily maximum and minimum temperature and humidity, as well as maximum wind speed for areas with and without netting. As expected, netting reduced the wind speed, especially that this netting is fully enclosed around the sides. What is interesting here is the higher minimum temperature under the netting, which suggests its potential to provide frost protection and reduce loss in fruit quality and yield. This table, the table below shows comparison in key quality parameters, including weight, size, fruit color, firmness, and sugar, which in the form of bricks. So at this site in the last season, there was really little difference between control and netting. The results of microclimate are only the averaged values over about 2-month period. From our experience, cover effects tend to vary with seasonal conditions, which means that the effects could be different on warm days compared to cooler days. So to get a more nuanced picture, I'll show how maximum and minimum temperatures changed over the 2 months period. So here the line chart shows max and minimum temperatures on the netting and in the control area. The overall trend is largely consistent with the averaged numbers in the table, but this figure gives us a bit more detail. Early in the season, we can see here when conditions were cooler, minimum temperature under the net were actually higher than the control. As the season warmed up, the difference became smaller. So in this case, the netting could help protect buds and the flowers from frost in early spring, as well as prevent damage on crops from, say, cold snaps that can happen sometime later in the season. This is the chart for maximum and minimum humidity under and outside of netting. Well, they were generally similar over the period, except on some days. Open area had higher humidity than the netting, which might be because lower nighttime temperatures led to dew formation, but we will need more data to confirm that. And here is the rain cover in Victoria. It's a sort of 3-layer canvas material. And the analysis covers the period from when the cover went on in November to the harvest in December. So during this period, covered area had a significantly lower maximum temperature and higher minimum humidity, which suggests that the cover could help buffer heat and reduce water stress during dry conditions. Interestingly, we found little difference in fruit quality, except for higher sugar content in the control area than the covered area. We also measured the new shoot growth as an indication of tree vigor and found that trees under the cover were significantly more vigorous than trees in the control area. And the temporal trend, in temperatures, the maximum temperature trend is consistent with average values, showing covers reduced maximum temperature. But if we look more closely, there's a pattern that generally the higher the temperatures, the larger the difference between cover and control, which might mean that covers are more effective at mitigating heat extremes during warmer periods. And at this site, there was little difference in minimum temperature, which is different from the New South Wales trial, the netting one. So in addition to the difference in cover type, this might also because the analysis period for this trial was like warmer than for the netting trial. And under warmer conditions, covers don't seem to have much influence on minimum temperature. Oh, sorry, that's light. So for humidity, cover consistently had higher maximum and minimum humidity than without cover at this site. On one hand, it suggests potential to reduce irrigation on the covers. On the other hand, it might contribute to the vigor, which we have seen in the new shoot growth, and might have implications for disease and other concerns. So the last trial I will share, from me is the rain cover combined with throw-over netting over individual rows in Victoria. Surprisingly, there was little difference in microclimate conditions between cover and control. We're not quite sure why, and assume that it might partly because of more moderate conditions at this site compared to the other two sites. Although maximum humidity was about 5% lower under the cover, but the difference was not statistically significant. Overall, it seems cover had limited impact on in-canopy microclimate at this site in the last season. However, we see significant differences in fruit quality. Cherries on the cover were significantly larger, heavier, and dark in color compared to those outside of covers. However, this block was badly damaged by rainfall and humid conditions early in the season. So when we harvested, we saw widespread cracking and mold. So to be able to do quality assessment, we only sampled cherries with little or no visible damage. So the result might not really represent the actual situation in the season. Again, looking at the trend over time, it might explain why there was limited difference in the table results, which only covered the period up to harvest in December. And the weather actually warmed up further after that. So during the cooler period, there was little difference in maximum temperature. However, as the season warmed up after harvest, the cover started to reduce maximum temperature, especially on really hot days with maximum temperature around 40 degrees. And move to humidity. I couldn't really explain why there was like the cover actually had consistently lower humidity compared to the control. And there might be some issues with the sensors, but we just need to look further into that. However, in here the cover increased minimum humidity when the season was drier, which has implications for irrigation again. So that's the trials from New South Wales and Victoria. Here, I'll pass it on to Ollie to share the results from Tasmania. Thank you, Ollie.
Thank you, Summer. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, very well.
Super. Okay, so my name's Oliver and I work at the Tasmanian Institute of Agriculture, and we're running a few case studies as part of this project as well. The first Tasmanian case study was held in the Tamar Valley, and it's been led by Dr. Letitia Rees, who is currently on a very well-deserved holiday at the moment. In developing this case study, there were two research questions that we wanted to focus, and that was how the rain covers alter the microclimate, and specifically how an altered microclimate can affect leaf physiology. And as you can see, the differences between temperature and humidity are actually quite small, but the biggest story comes in when we talk about light. The PAR meter was used to measure light for photosynthesis, and our custom weather stations, which Shama mentioned before, were used to measure solar radiation. And as you can see, Under covers, PAR was reduced by about 53%, and solar radiation was reduced by about 40%. So the next question for us is, how did the trees respond to this change? Next slide, please, Summer. Well, what we concluded is that under the rain covers, we have a lower vapor pressure deficit, meaning that we have less water losses from the leaves through transpiration under covers. A lower VPD was associated with higher stomatal conductance and higher photosynthesis efficiency. All of this seems to indicate that the photosynthetic apparatus of the leaf seems to operate more efficiently under the covers. Basically, the atmosphere under the covers is placing less demand on the leaves. And one possible explanation for this could be that the lower light reduce the risk of excess light stress for the leaves. But what does this mean for fruit quality? Summer, next slide. Well, what we found in the lab is that the covers resulted in bigger fruit, but with less firmness when compared to the open field. In the lab, the cherries grown under the covers had more fruit in the larger categories, that is 30 millimeters and above. And for growers, this is where the commercial implications regarding cover investment becomes really interesting for them. We know that consumers typically pay more money for larger fruit, but the softness of the fruit will actually have the inverse effect for consumers, as they typically prefer firmer fruit. So these results lead neatly into some of the economic questions that we're asking around investing into covers, which Summer brought up at the start of the presentation. We have a few more seasons to investigate this relationship between leaf physiology, size, and firmness, and that's what we'll be working on in the future for this case study. Next slide, please, Summer. Our second Tasmanian case study is located in the Coal Valley, close to Hobart, and our focus for this case study was comparing clear covers with opaque covers under netting. In designing this trial, our growers were particularly interested in knowing if, one, the light quality is affected by the clear and opaque covers, and two, is there a difference in the quality of the fruit grown under each different cover type? So we ran this experiment as a strip trial, and from the results, we found that, one, the opaque covers filtered out approximately 35% more light than the clear covers, and two, the weight, size, and firmness were all up on the clear covers when we compare them to the opaque covers. As you can see, for both the opaque and the clear covers, fruit size was higher and firmness was lower when we compare it to just the netting alone. And that tracks with what Letitia found in the previous case study. What this data seems to suggest is that the fruit under the clear covers ripen at a slightly earlier time than the opaque covers. And the growers actually did end up picking the two different treatments at different times. We've got more years worth of data collection to actually see if this is the case and not just a seasonal oddity. And so that's what we'll be looking towards for future versions. Future studies at this site. Again, this trial is looking to fruit quality analysis as a way to support investment decisions for growers, and in this case, specifically, what types of covers are best to invest into. I'll throw it back over to Summer, but thank you very much.
Holly. So just a few key messages from the one season trials. So covers with the data suggests covers could protect crops from frost in the heat damage, reducing loss in food quality and yield in those events. They might also help preserve moisture under dry conditions, reducing irrigation needs, especially during droughts. However, how they might affect food quality is still not conclusive yet. Importantly, these effects are likely to vary with seasonal climate and between regions. So in that case, we would recommend that growers use sensors to understand how the covers might perform in their own orchards and adjust the management as needed. And what happens next? So we have an investment analysis tool that's being refined, and hopefully we can release it to the industry in from now more than 1 year. And we, like Ollie said, we have 2 more seasons data to collect from the trials. In addition to the trials looking at climate cover effects on microclimate and fruit quality, we also have trials set up and trials to set up to investigate different management practices on the covers. And we also we are conducting interviews with growers to collected their experiences. I would like to say thank you to the amazing team in DPIRD and TR, and also the funding body, Hot Innovation, for funding the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Summer and Ollie. That was great. I'm wondering if anyone has any questions for our 2 panelists. Don't be afraid to pop it in the chat, or you can come off mute. But as we're waiting, I've got a question for you both. And what are some of the outputs, so those tangible items from this project that growers can look forward to in the next 2 years?
So we will produce materials including fact sheets and industry articles. We also have media release and like webinars like this. So yeah, those are the major materials that the industry can expect.
Any workshops or anything that is coming up?
Oh yes, sorry, I just did not think that as materials. Yes, that extension activities, absolutely. Yeah, we will hold workshops and field days where we will get girls together to share the findings and learn from each other.
Thanks, Summer. Matt Maunder, you have a question. Would you like to come off mute? Oh, maybe he can't, Geeta. I can see that he's got a...
Yep, I just did. You should be right now, Matt.
Yep, thanks, Jess. Just a quick question for Ollie. Thanks, Summer and Ollie. Just wanted to confirm the quality metrics you showed for that opaque covers. Are they at day of harvest or on the same day for all the treatments? And what was the harvest delay for the opaque covers?
Yeah, so unfortunately they were at the same day. So this is one of the challenges that we had this season because of the uncertainty around the harvest dates. But the delay ended up being about a week or so between the clear covers and the opaque covers. However, there was a little bit of colour picking within the block as well. So where they actually went back and picked multiple times under the opaque treatment, which is why we ended up harvesting, why we ended up collecting the sample cherries on the same time as we did for the clear covers.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Thanks for that.
Yeah, and I suppose it's that factor that has led us to ask that question around relationship to ripening time. But as we said, we need to do some more investigations into this before we can say definitively that's what we think is causing that slight variation.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Ollie. I can see that we might have one in the chat, or I'm getting a notification saying that there's one in the chat. Is there any information available for Northern Europe cherry growing in areas such as Hamburg in Germany? Does anything exist? In terms of protected cropping, Bob, in protected production, or just cherry growing in general? If it is on, oh yeah, Dougal, would you like to weigh in on this one? Are you able to mute Dougs there? Yeah,
Okay,
thanks.
now I'm unmuted. Okay.
There you go.
I don't know specifically about Hamburg. It's not exactly my backyard, but there are research stations, quite active government-funded research stations in, I think it's Erfurt, IRFURT. They were reporting at the last International Cherry Conference. A young researcher, I think his name was Martin, talking about rootstocks and training systems, you might recall. Yeah, so it wouldn't surprise me if they were doing covered work, given that Overman is obviously manufactured in southern Germany, but he wasn't talking about that topic, so I don't know for sure. So that was just a comment on that question, and then I just wanted to comment on. Oh, you can't see me either. Sorry, I'm not very good at driving. Oh, I don't get the option.
That's all right. Yeah, you might be disarmed.
It's okay. You can. I am disarmed. You can do without seeing me. Oh, there we go. Thank you, Juto.
That's okay.
Here I am. We need to work more on the physiology data from Letitia's trial, but basically that efficiency is talking about the tree can more efficiently use light at low light levels, which makes sense because it's growing under a lower light environment. So we get flatter leaf angles, bigger leaves, they're better at capturing light, there's more chlorophyll, they're converting it. So they're very efficient at the low light levels, but it doesn't mean that that overall they're capturing as much carbohydrate as trees that are outside covers, because they might be more efficient at low light levels, but they're not getting enough light to get the photosynthesis at high levels compared to outside covers. So the data is true, and Ollie represented it really well, but just the story, it might give the wrong impression if we just say they're more efficient. It's true they're more efficient under low light levels, but not necessarily under high light levels. Yep.
Thanks.
That was it. Thanks.
Thank you. If there are no more questions, we might move on, but you're welcome to still pop questions in the chat, and then after our next presentation, welcome to come off mute and have some more discussion. But a big thank you to Summer and Ollie for both presenting this afternoon. So our next session is actually myself, and I'm going to be talking about a new project that has just started with the cherry industry. It's actually a multi-industry project looking at cherries, apples, and viticulture. But to save all the hassle today, I'm just going to focus on cherries, and particularly New South Wales. Now, I did mention at the start of the webinar that the University of Tasmania, so Dougal and his team are also involved in this project under Nigel Swartz, and they're also doing cherry work as well as part of this larger project. So we're really keen to work in with what's happening in Tasmania and hopefully replicating a few of the treatments up here in New South Wales to be able to get that national overview of some of these adaptation mechanisms. But adapting cherries to seasonal drought and climate volatility is basically the aim of the Grow Adapt project. This project has been through several iterations of its name, but is referred to as the Grow Adapt. So it's a 5-year program, which is awesome because we know that one season obviously doesn't give us enough data. And if we can look at long-term ranges, and even though 5 years in the grand scheme of things is not super long-term, but at least we can have a look at some different seasons with different nuances as we move through this project. One of the things that I beat it on the drum pretty heavily was that although our cherry season is quite short, sometimes dry can be good because it means we don't have rain cracking, but it brings along some more challenges with heat and other impacts to our bud initiation process and then tree stress moving forward. And so chronic drought is obviously a big issue for our temperate horticulture systems because we are highly dependent on rainfall, and sometimes traditionally we haven't had good quality irrigation security. That's changing now as we're growing in more marginal areas, and the use of irrigation schemes have made it quite easy to continue production. But declining rainfall in areas such like Orange, where we have been traditionally a high rainfall area, and the cost of water and pumping, and I hear so many stories now around that restriction on water. This is becoming a conversation that we really need to think about. And although drought sometimes, I don't want to say is good for cherries, but dry periods can be good for cherries, chronic drought and these heat waves are not. So that's what this project is kind of trying to address. And so we actually have quite a big cherry team for this project because it's quite large. And like I mentioned, there are CSU counterparts and our UTAS counterparts, but for New South Wales in particular, this is our list of our cherry team who are working across 2 research trials here in New South Wales. So what we're trying to look at in our fully replicated research trial is how much stress can a tree endure before there is impact on crop, the current crop, and then subsequent crop and tree health. And are there ways you can are there times during the cherry season that you can get away without watering to save on water if you are using storage or dependent on rainfall? And so what we're trying to do is pinpoint those times, and there's been a lot of work in Spain that has investigated the use of, turning off the water at certain times during crop physiology because it doesn't have impact on cherries. And so we're going to be looking at the work that they've done. And then we're also going to be looking at, I've heard anecdotal, conversations around some growers like to turn off the water a couple of days before harvest to try and increase Brix. Some other growers like to turn up the water. So there's a lot of different of those anecdotal, evidence coming around about water and when to switch it off that might impact fruit quality. We're just trying to get a bit of a feel in a replicated, controlled environment of what that actually means, and can we do some of these crazy things like improve quality with the way we turn on and off water. We will be trying to look at deficit irrigation, so how much water a cherry tree actually needs, and we're going to be using equipment such as a plant water stress console, which is a really definitive way of the tree looking at that curve between field capacity and absolute plant stress, and how close to the line of that absolute plant stress that we can get to without having impact on the crop. Because cherries are so valuable, and I understand that no one wants to lose crop in the name of research, we are going to be focusing a little bit on that post-harvest management period. So that means that the fruit is off, but that period that sometimes we are a bit busy. A lot of cherry growers also grow apples, so the cherries, it's done and dusted, the trees are kind of self-maintained, and then we move on to apple harvest. What is the actual bare minimum post-harvest management we need to adhere to that ensures that we are still going to have really good bud initiation, we're going to have great flowering, and then we're going to have better yields year on year. And then our demonstration trial that we have, we're going to be looking at best practice irrigation monitoring, because one of the frustrations that I have is there are so many sensors, so many different options of technology out there. But what are the key ones that you need to have really good irrigation monitoring, and then and how do you interpret the data, and how do you actually make management decisions from them? So that's kind of what the 2 trials are looking at. The replicated research trial, just to dive in a little bit deeper, so we're going to have that deficit irrigation treatment, but we're also going to be looking at, can we cool the canopy during this time? So is there treatments that you can put out to guarantee that your buds are going to have great bud initiation, and you're going to reduce the risk of things like doubling in subsequent seasons? You're going to have beautiful flowering like Summer's pictured here in an orchard block, and you're going to have great fruit quality. And so we're going to be trying some weird and wacky things. I've even been looking at evaporative cooling systems tied to hail nets. So we're trying to think about some of these options and what benefit do they actually have, and quantifying that. And if anyone has any ideas or wants us to try something wacky, you can come and have a chat with me, because I'm really interested in as we move toward a hotter climate and this December-January period when most of this post-harvest bud initiation is happening, how can we protect our buds the best at that time? And so some of the questions that we're going to be looking at with this best practice irrigation, sorry, that should be monitoring, not modelling, although we will be doing a little bit of modelling, is like I mentioned, what does the data mean? What do I actually need for good monitoring? Do I need all the different sensors in the world? Do I need a dendrometer, a sap flow meter, you know, all these things? Or is it best just having a flow meter and then looking at your trees, soil moisture probes, all those conversations? So we've actually got our irrigation monitoring trial in a young block. So they were planted last year. And so we're actually going to be following that young block as it becomes, it comes into maturity and production. And we'll also be able to have a look at rooting depth and how roots might be affected and how different water stress might impact young trees early on. So the outcomes for industry from this project at the end of 5 years, if we're all still here at the end of 5 years in the cherry industry, we'll be looking at what is best practice post-harvest irrigation management. What do you have to do to make sure you get that crop for the next season? We're looking at options for cooling cherry buds, best practice irrigation based on rootstock depth. I've got a mini project which my team are a little bit skeptical about because it involves a lot of soil probing, soil coring, sorry, and it's very hard work, but I'd love to be able to have a look at the main rootstocks that we have across the cherry industry and start looking at their rooting depth for different soil types and how we can actually deliver water to an active root zone and where that might be. So we're going to be doing a lot of coring and having a look at where, how far those rootstocks are getting, and then making some hopefully some good recommendations on what you need to be thinking about if you're planting specific rootstocks. And then at the end of all of this, we will have a grower's manual on irrigating cherries with a focus on that post-harvest period from the research trials. So where can you stay up to date for all of these, for all this project? And if you're interested in apples and viticulture, we're all on the same website. So make sure you are subscribed to the Cherry Industry newsletter. That's the one that comes out from Cherry Growers Australia associated with the Extension Project. We will be using the Extension Project majority for outputs for the Drought Project. We will be having workshops and webinars, so make sure you keep your eyes on our events page and things that we send out through the newsletter. And then you can also visit the Grow Adapt web page, which is currently under development, and that will have a bit more information about the trials and the treatments, the growers we're working with, and some of the preliminary findings and data to start off that. So that's all from me. Does anyone have any questions? I'd love to hear if anyone has any ideas for some treatments or anything as well, or wants to get involved. I'll just check the chat. I think everyone's talking about the German researcher. Thanks, Dukes, for putting that in. And thank you, Gita. I got a question from Maha. Did you want to come off mute?
Hello.
Hello.
Hi there. I was just wondering, has any work been done on the amount of chill required for cherries, and is there enough chill acquired nowadays?
There has been a fair bit of work, particularly out of Rebecca Derbyshire, who now works at CSIRO, but has done a lot of work in chill accumulation in cherries. And so if you have a look at Beck Derbyshire, she's got a couple of papers published, and chill accumulation and chill portion accumulation in overseas, there is quite a little bit of research as well. What we're seeing currently now, and a lot of growers probably on the call are a little bit nervous around our more marginal areas, and chill accumulation is becoming a little bit more difficult to achieve. And we did a bit of, New South Wales DPI did a bit of climate modelling, looking at, as we move to 2050, chill portion accumulation is going to be harder and harder in some regions to achieve every year. And our grower that we're working with down in Young actually spoke to me about this. And one of the blue sky ideas that we're actually thinking about is potentially using overhead irrigation for cooling and all those things that I was talking about in the post-harvest period, but maybe doing that in the winter period to see if we can accumulate chill. So that was something that we were talking about as part of this drought project, but at the moment our team's pretty tight with contracting. It's always it seems to be delayed. So this season we're just trying to get the trials in the ground, and then hopefully next season we'll have a bit more of a play around with some of these other concepts. But yeah, if you're looking for some of that chill portion work, I'd have a look at Rebecca Derbyshire.
Okay, yeah, thank you. And because I did some chill mitigation work with pistachios, and that's again a challenging crop for lack of chill. So I was wondering if cherry, I assume it's the same.
Very much the same.
Do you know how much of chill units that cherries require?
It varies per variety. Most of our varieties will have the chill portions that are needed on there. Like if you just Google specific varieties, they usually have them online, so you can have a quick look. But a lot of varieties, later season varieties of cherries do require higher amounts of chill. It's our early season and our newer varieties which are more low chill, almost like a stone fruit that you might get. And yeah, Dukes has just made a good point that we saw at the International Cherry Symposium, Israel are trying to block out the sun during parts of winter with hail netting to increase chill. I mean, Israel's a very challenging place to grow cherries. So they're trying to do all sorts of wacky things there as well to get that chill portion accumulation.
We use winter oil application, and also I tried polymer application for chill mitigation, which worked well.
Is it like an anti-transparent?
Not really. It's not an anti-transparent, but it interferes with respiration of the tissues. So what it does is, it interferes with respiration, so it forces the bud to open. So that we get uniform bud burst and flowering. So because male and female trees are separating pistachios, and so there needs to be synchronization, and it's a very narrow window of flowering and pollination in pistachios. So but it works, especially in areas where there's low chill accumulation. So what I did was I modeled some long-term chill accumulation data across pistachio growing locations, and came up with zones where you can grow pistachios and where you should not be growing, and which is the limit, latitude limit, and things like that. So yeah, it's very interesting that above a particular latitude, chill accumulation becomes challenging, and you got to take some mitigation aspects, and polymer is one of them, and oil application, definitely it's a must across any location.
Thank you for that. Yes, it's for temperate fruit crops and nuts. I think it's going to be something that is quite quite popular with research into the future. Does anyone else have any other questions? Otherwise, I might let you get all back to your Thursday afternoon. Everyone's pretty happy. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining this afternoon. I hope you got something out of it. Again, the recording will be available if you would like to re-watch any of this. Please get in touch if you would like to chat about any of the research projects, and hopefully I will see all of you on the 5th of August at 2 p.m. Have a great afternoon, guys. We'll see you soon. Thanks,
Jess.
Peter, as well.
Thanks, everyone.